Hi friends, it's Cheryl from Tutoring with Cheryl. I'm the tech coach for tutors, and today I'd like to talk to you about what's been going on in my tutoring business behind the scenes, because you guys don't usually get to hear unless I report to you. Now, I've been very busy interviewing some other seasoned professionals that have been teachers, our current tutors, and I have since shared those conversations on my YouTube pages. So make sure that you go and check out my conversation that I recently had with Tina McMillan from Atypical Tutors. And our most recent conversation was My Child Hates to Read. It was a really great conversation about why kids struggle with their reading, why and what parents can do about it. And then I also talked a little bit about the national report card that was just issued by the Department of Education. And of course, if you live here in the United States, there's a lot of hullabaloo around the DOGE going in and, cutting services and ending, financing and all of this. And that I didn't get into that conversation because that opens up a whole nother can of worms. But the report itself basically stated that only 30% of our third graders, right around there, are actually proficient readers. So 70% are not proficient. And so where does that leave us? Like we are in a real reading crisis. So Tina and I talked about the problem and then potential solutions and things to look for if you're worried that your child has a reading problem. I also met with Kelly Michelle Dramsche for a monthly meeting on tutoring tips for teachers, and we always meet before we push the record button. She had a meeting with a potential parent, so we were a little pressed for time. So that conversation was only about 15 minutes. But what we talked about was she's putting together a course, and she's using, I believe she said Thinkific, to build out a course for beginning tutors and, the cold, hard truth about tutoring. And, if you're currently a teacher, you're still in the classroom, and you're thinking, oh, that is my dream job. I just want to go out and I want to be a tutor. It is absolutely amazing. And when you have the students, it's so simple, but the struggle comes when you don't have the students, which then led us to, some marketing things and how she markets and how I market. And, we talked a little bit about social media. And then I talked about kind of a grassroots effort that I'm having just here in my neighborhood area. And if you know me and you followed me, you know that I live out in the country. Like I'm on a farm. I'm a little house on the prairie, literally. As I'm looking out my window and it's blowing all over the place. We literally are Little House on the Prairie. And, it's a little bit more difficult when you don't have a storefront or you don't have a place to hang your hat. And she works for, she doesn't work for anybody. She works for herself, but she has an actual location where she can meet with the students in person. And I think that's great. I just don't happen to have that. If a student wants to see me face to face, they can drive out to our, I guess we call it a house. It's our building with a house on it, like a little apartment. And we've got like an office area there. So they can come and visit me there, but then they quickly find that the distance really is kind of a deterrent. So that's why I do my tutoring online. So our conversation then led to what are you doing about it? So I talked about how I'd recently placed an advertisement in the newspaper and that I've been putting signs up, and I've been watching the traffic on my website. And I didn't ever have any analytics associated with it, but it is very interesting. When I post my sign in a new location, I get more hits on it. Now, this is not a service. I don't offer a service to help everybody. I offer a service to support struggling readers and writers. And occasionally I'll support them with their math depending on where they're at. But I don't specialize in the math services. I found that was just a little bit more tedious for me, and that I get really rapid results with reading and writing. So that's really my emphasis. And so when the market is a little bit more saturated with reading tutors and there's more availability, it is a little bit more difficult to get students. And so, we were just talking cold, hard truths in that conversation because the truth is that your business isn't just about teaching. Your business is about running a small business. We weren't trained to be teachers. Excuse me, I said that wrong. We weren't trained to be business people, managers. There we go. I got it. We were trained to be teachers. There we go. We got it right. And I think that's where there's a little bit of discourse when we think about I'm gonna run a business, because we're not accounting experts, so we just kind of, that conversation was there. It was raw. It was the truth. Like, sometimes it's just hard. And then other times you have a windfall of students. So like Kelly was getting 9 students that she was onboarding. I think in our conversation it was 5, and she ended up getting 9. And right as we were finishing up that conversation, I said I was just onboarding a student, and then I got a second student. So from that conversation, I had grown 2 students. And so I think it's just that whatever you're going to do as far as marketing your business, you have to do it with intention. You have to kind of have a strategy involved, and try your strategy. And if it doesn't work, then you pivot and you try something else. I put my Google Analytics on my website, and every single time I post my yard signs, I get traffic. So either people are curious, or they're sharing the information, or something. So I have to drive traffic to my website. It's literally just a website. There's a million websites out there that I don't even know about, like you don't even know about. And unless somebody's driving traffic to them, nobody knows about them, right? So it's that marketing piece, that marketing element. So we talked a little bit about that. And that pretty much wrapped that conversation up. Then I had another conversation with a former colleague of mine, Pamela J. Mulliken, and she just wrote a graphic novel. Well, it's not really quite a graphic novel. It has a lot of great artwork in it. It's a smaller novel with shorter chapters, and she wrote it about some kids that live out in the country, because she lives on a farm, and they found a culvert. And I said, I think you need to tell people what a culvert is, because they're not going to know. She goes, well, it's a drainage pipe. Okay, so it's the culvert spaceship, and I think it was Mission to the Moon or something. So they found this little piece of tin, and they turned it into a pretend rocket ship. And then she uses facts about the moon, and the kids are on the moon, and they're finding the things that were left on the moon and exploring it. And along the way, she built out like a glossary to go with the book, and then activities to go with the book. And I thought the idea was really great. And it's a very short book, so you're not getting. She called it a novel, which in her mind it is, because it has chapters. But I would say it's like a shorter story with chapters. But it was really a nice, cute little story. I read it. She had it placed for like a first grader to be able to read it, but none of my first graders would be able to read it. I would say it's probably closer to maybe 3rd or 4th grade level reading. It was just a cute little story. And now she's producing additional stories to go along with it. So I did purchase the book. I haven't used it with any of my students yet. Haven't had an opportunity, but I will be doing that. Will be the next book in the series of books that my kids are all reading and completing and doing things with. And the nice part is she's got a comprehension quiz to go with it. I always like to find an educator every month to kind of spotlight them. And so she was another one of the educators that I got to visit with. And then something else that I was just working on this morning before I headed into town to have my morning coffee with my friends. I was working on my monthly newsletter, or my weekly newsletter, I should call it, because I'm pretty consistent. I try to send one out once a week, and I'm reopening my Google Classroom Bootcamp. And the reason I'm reopening that Google Classroom Bootcamp is I offered it, and then people were like, oh, wait, I really wanted to be a part of that. I said I was going to open it up again in April, but we're close enough to April that I'm just going to open it up, and it's going to run on autopilot. So I'm letting people know that it's available. They get last month's recording that takes them through kind of like, how do you do Google Classroom? And then it takes you all the way through 8 modules. So in these 8 modules, you're going to learn these things. This is how you set up and run a Google Classroom. And then they also get a full hour of time with me, and they get all of that for $45. And I think that's really a lot, because it took me a long time to put all that together, and then, to share it out and to share my expertise and my, I can totally tailor all of that to meet their needs. And so I use Google Classroom with my students because it's like their little learning hub. They know where their Google Meet link is, where they're going to come and meet me. Any additional study materials are going to be listed there. So they all kind of have their own little private library. And then any links that they need to come back to, PDFs, forms, those types of things can be placed in there. But you don't have to use Google Classroom for one person. You could use it for a group of people. You could host a course on it. And I go through all of that inside of my training. And I think that's what makes the training really unique, because most teachers think of Google Classroom and they go, yuck, I don't like it. Well, I love it because you can turn it into anything that you want to turn it into. And it's just, for ease of use, it's just so easy to use. It just takes a little bit of while and practice to wrap your head around how to quickly and efficiently organize it. So the people who are taking the Google Classroom boot camp from me, actually, that's exactly where I house the course. So I teach tutors also how you can house a course in it. You just have to be the one to market it and sell it. So I sent that out in my newsletter. Actually, that's going to go out on Monday. Now, what's coming down the pipeline? That's a really good question. I was supposed to have met with Gabrielle Critchlow from A Step Ahead Tutoring. She had something come up that I don't know, something came up on her schedule, so we rescheduled. So I will be meeting with her the first week in April, and we're going to be talking about essay writing. Now, I work with elementary students. She works with students of, I believe, kindergarten through 12th grade. So what we try to do is we try to take this idea of essay writing and just kind of go with 5 main tips and tricks to create a solid essay. Because even if your student is in 3rd grade, writing a paragraph is going to have a lot of the same elements that essays are going to have in them. And so I kind of broke it down for us, and we're going to be talking about that. Then I just got a message from Michael Gibbon, and we're going to have a little coffee chat and decide what we're going to chat about on each other's podcasts. I invited him to come and talk a little bit about his summer tutoring tips for tutors. And so I would like him to come on to the podcast and share about that. And then he asked me if I might be interested in chatting a little bit about tech trends for tutors. The thing is that I don't know what's trendy for tutors, but what I can say is that I've heard a lot of chatter about AI. So I think we'll maybe be talking about artificial intelligence and how that can actually make your life as a tutor a lot easier. So that might be what we bring up, but we'll have that conversation. And then for my own personal, what's been going on behind the scenes with me is I totally went in and I've been revamping my website. And the reason I've done that, and I speak very highly of TutorBird because number one is it is a service that I use. It's a service that I like, and it has really made my job as a tutor so much easier. So I went in and I've been kind of redoing the background on my website, changing links up, making it look maybe a little bit more readable. And then they just came up with sign-up forms. And so I've created Meet the Tutor lessons, where if a student or a parent just want to pop in and meet me and get to know me, if they don't already know me, it's not really meant to be an instructional meeting. It's meant to just like, hey, let's just meet. We can chat. And I have a couple of those open during the week, and they can sign up, and those are free things. I've also added the contact form on there, which is on basically every page. And then there's also a sign-up page. Like if you already know you want services because like and trust me, you can just go straight into that, and then I will get in touch with you and say, okay, what time works best for you? So those are really the things that I've been working on in the background, and all of those things take time. So when you're thinking about your tutoring business, I want you to listen to everything that I was doing to grow my tutoring business. And you're like, well, now wait a minute, why are you talking to all these other educators? Well, here's the thing. Number one, it keeps me very informed about what's going on from the perspective of an educator, but also I'm talking to other tutors. Okay. And we're comparing notes and we're kind of mentoring each other. It's like a mutual relationship where I learn from you, you learn from me, you try something, I try something. We compare notes. Did it work? Did it not work? How'd you do it? How did I do it? And we compare notes. And I've been attending things like Kelly Michelle Duramshe's Tutor Buddies event on tutoring tips for teachers. I hosted one, and I think I had 7 or 8 people sign up, and I only had one actually show up, but it was a great connection. I made a connection with somebody new. And that's the thing. I put myself out there. I make myself vulnerable. There's a lot to be vulnerable here, because you're like, well, are people like going to judge me or think that this is weird or whatever, but I show up because when I show up, I make connections. And so I went to Kelly Michelle Duramshe's this week, and Jivan George was there. And I've worked with Jivan George. I've mentored him, and he was really stuck on some things, and I gave him some advice, and he followed it. And then he, in return, showed up to this, and there were, I think there was 5 of us there, and he was the only math person, just strictly math person there. And I'm like, hey, Jivan, I'm going to have some students for you here in the next year or so that I'm going to send you because, you show up. You're interested. You want to help other people. And, I think he's a really highly intelligent guy who could help some of my struggling math students who I'm kind of maxing out on. So that's why you show up. You show up to make those connections so you can, learn about other tutors. You can decide if they might be a good fit for your students. You can learn new things. And so I'm just really going to encourage you to get involved. And I'm going to invite you. Make sure that you check the description under this conversation because I want you to check out what I offer. Go into my TutorBird page under the Tech Hub for Tutors. Look and see, is that a place that you want to show up for a monthly meeting? Look and see what the monthly meeting is, and then hop in and get the training. And then you can get recordings for that for 30 days. And you get all of that. You get the transcript, and then anything else that I provide, you get that for a lifetime. And then go check out Kelly Michelle Duramshe's tutoring page. Go see if that's a place where you can hang your hat and get involved and meet and connect with other people. And then I also encourage you to go and check out my YouTube pages because my YouTube pages have a plethora of information on them that I think will help you grow in confidence as an educator. And then they're also really helpful for parents because I pick topics that I think are timely and helpful for parents. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. That was just a little rundown of what I've been up to. I know I've been kind of radio silent for a little bit on the podcast, and that is honestly because I've been so busy doing other things. But I'm going to take some of those recordings that I did with the conversation that I actually shared here with you in the background, and I'm going to be uploading them onto the podcast to share with you. But if there is something that you have a burning question about, if you're a parent and you happened upon me and you're like, oh, I want to know more about this, or if you're a tutor and you want to know more about this, I'm very, very happy to share my knowledge. I mean, it's truly just my experiences, but I'm always happy to share those with you. So if there's something there that you want to know, like what has been my experience, I will tell you my experience, and then you can either say, oh, I want to try that myself, or go, no, that sounds like a terrible idea. And so, yeah, I'm glad you hung out with me today. You guys go out, make it a great day. And as usual, keep the learning going.